Officially Finner with your hosts, Robin and Rudy, a podcast about family where we live, love, and laugh along the way. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Officially Finner podcast. I am Rudy Finner, which I affectionately refer to myself as the co-host, and I'm joined by Robin Finner, my wife, who I feel like is the host. She asked me if I would kick it off today, and that's kind of exciting because I don't get to do this much. Today, we're going to deviate from a path that I usually take us to because I'm kind of like the health and fitness guy, and health and fitness, and sometimes she says,
he could not deviate from that today, could you? You couldn't help but mention that.
And she said, I don't want to do that today. So, being kind of a smart husband that I am, I said, well, no problem at all. What do you like to talk about? She said, marriage, like, rah-rah. But anyway, the real truth of it is it's really interesting. We celebrated our 43rd wedding anniversary this summer, and we're always trying to find ways to talk about marriage. The working title that we have for this segment is How to Make a Marriage That Lasts. That's what Robin said. Let me be honest with you and tell you what my version of it is my version was 43. How did that happen? Because I think I want to be very clear as we begin to talk about this. I'm going to kick it off and let Robin get us going, but let me be sure about something. We entered this conversation with a tremendous amount of sobriety. We have a lot of fun, and we can't help it. That's it. We've been laughing since the day we met, and you'll find as we talk about it, that's one of the ingredients of this, I think. But we approach this topic with a tremendous amount of sobriety and understanding that nobody has a map that's absolute. Nobody has a definite this will work. I think marriage is very much like DNA. Each marriage is totally unique. There is no formula. There is no broad brush. And if that is what you're doing, stop. I think that is a good way to make sure that the marriage does not last. So when I say 43, how did that happen? I want to bend into the humility and understand that I don't know how I got here. I'm grateful to God and praise his name every day that I am here. But to imply to you that we really know what we're doing and we can pass on a formula, a prescription to you that will work for you, that's misleading, and that is not what we're doing. What we're telling you is sharing our experiences, because I do think there's some common things that if you look at couples that have been together as long as we have, you'll find some common threads. And that's what we're hopefully going to reveal to you is what those common threads are. And with that,
oh, I thought you could go on because you were really doing such a great job of that.
Oh, man.
Have you do that more often?
Oh, man. I messed up. I should have kept going.
No, you really are very good. I'm laughing, but I'm serious. You really are very good at that. And thank you for doing that. So, so we always get together and try to figure out what are the bullet points that we want to try to cover when we're talking. And I thought, okay, maybe we start at the beginning and how did we start?
Yeah.
A lot of you who know us know that we were actually introduced by cousins. My cousin and his cousin were married to each other. And they were, 10, 12 years older than we were.
Let me be sure for anybody that's saying, hey, wait a minute. Don't go Jerry Lee Lewis on me. So I'm going to say.
We're not cousins.
Yeah, we're not cousins. It was her first cousin and my second cousin.
Right.
So yeah, there's a whole lot of space and distance in this. So don't text messages or emails about that.
That's right. I'm glad you clarified that.
Let's clarify that.
Okay. So, and they were, like I said, they were several years older than we were.
Yep.
They had children who, so I was 11, 12 years old when I first, when my cousin's kids were born.
Yeah.
I knew your mom and your sister before I knew you.
Long. Long time before.
So my cousin would have birthday parties for her kids, and because his cousin was part of their family, his mom and his sister would come to their birthday parties, and I was there to help her with the birthday party. And his mom was just my cousin's girlfriend, Frances, and Jewel was just this other kid that came. And it changed over time, and she became Mrs. Finner when I met him. But anyway, but it was really, really interesting because we had that connection initially, and then as we grew older, a little older, teenagers, okay, my cousin insisted that I meet, this guy. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever, eventually And she kept telling me, he's really cute. He's really this. He's really that. I mean, he was all at 17. But eventually she got us together and we hit it off. And we've been together ever since.
Yeah.
So we've really been together for more than 43 years. But that's what happens, I guess, when you start when you're 17. Yeah. I was actually in college then.
Well, here we go.
I tell it because it's an interesting story.
No,
okay?
it's an interesting, incredibly interesting story because
he was in high school.
Oh my
That's
gosh,
the other
there's so
part
much
of
how to so when I met Robin, I was convinced. I grew up in inner city DC, and every black male that grows up in inner city DC is convinced he's a player. Everybody that in that space, the early 70s, we were all tough guys wannabe. We were all ladies' men wannabe, and that sort of thing is kind of like, you want me to meet who for what? What? What are you talking about? All right, I'll meet her. It's kind of like I knew her cousin Hilda was just one of the sweetest human beings that has ever walked this earth. That we talk about her, we think about her, and anybody that she was in her space think about it. And of course, you can tell by my tone she's passed away. So she's a tremendous person, and there's no way that I would have ever said no to anything that she asked me to do. So I remember meeting Robin, and
boy, you just wanted to meet a girl.
I'll say when I met her, first of all, she was stunning, but kind of like that's how I roll. So, but she was an incredibly fascinating person to talk to, and I think she was attractive, and that was the initial draw. Don't let me lie to you and tell you something philosophical. She was cute, and that's what drew. But I think what happened was Robin was way beyond me intellectually. And I think immediately that was a challenge that I couldn't walk away from. See, when I met her, we were both 17. No.
We were
both 17, but I was in my senior year of high school. She was in her second year of college. Pause, ponder. Yes, you got that right. This was along the time when kids academically were able, they would move them to a grade that they thought better matched where they were academically. She academically was at a higher place than that age that she was at the time when they moved her. When we met, I think, first of all, I was in awe of anybody that was that smart. I think when we talked, I was pretty much a proverbial smart ass, and I knew all the answers, and I was like the dude. I very seldom ever had any woman that matched me, any girl that matched me. And I think every word that came out of my mouth before I got it out, it was shot, right? And that's kind of like, oh, who is this chick? And I think it became a mild competition, and perhaps I'm not describing it exactly. Maybe it was not quite mild, but she became a challenge to me. And I think that challenge was what drew me. And pursuing it, the challenge of a person who is that, and it's interesting because the physical was all there, but the brain thing really got going fast. And I think, this is funny, I have never said these words in my life. But as we're talking about this, I think you presented such an incredible challenge. The first argument, the prom. The prom was a fascinating place because we went through Christmas. Oh, wait a minute. I need to tell a mood ring story.
Oh, you're going back to
because,
all that.
Because hold up.
I'm glad he remembers all that. This is very good because you actually remember all these things.
So I met you in the fall because I think I wore a sweater the first time I met you. I actually think I wore a brown sweater and light brown sweater and had some blocks or something on it. I remember wearing that.
I think we have pictures.
It was the fall time. Maybe that's why I remember so well. So I meet her in the fall and we roll into Christmas. Now by Christmas, clearly, she's made her older woman moves, right?
What does that mean?
She's not an older woman, but she's thinking like an older woman. So she was finishing up her second year at Howard, right? And so she's rolling with Howard students. I'm rolling with Theodore Roosevelt high school students. Little different level. We were aggressive, but we weren't necessarily the most equipped for life. So as we're talking, she's messing with my brain. So by the time we get to Christmas, I'm just like, I'm done. Right, I'm toast. I'm devoted and all that stuff, and we exchange Christmas gifts. Here's where the story gets funny. I am a giver. There's a TED talk about givers and takers. And all of my life, I've been a giver. I gave to my mom. I gave to my sister. I've always been a gift giver. At 11 years old, I was bringing gifts back home from trips for my sister. That's my nature. That's what I do. Even right now, I give so much until she monitors my giving, because I will give everything away if left to my own devices. That's just the way it is. So I do what any giver does. I say, look, she likes perfume. Okay, let's see. I think at that time it was Chanel number 5.
It was Chanel number 5.
So I buy her a bottle of Chanel number 5, and I take the bottle of Chanel number 5 and I wrap it with 20s, I think, and I gave you $100 wrapped around that. Is that the way it was?
Actually, it was a $50 bill, but it was okay. It's still, you're close.
Okay,
you're
it was,
close.
yeah. So was it only 50 or was it 100?
It was 50.
Oh, it was a $50 bill. Okay, so I wrapped the 50 while. That's funny. Okay, so I put the 50 around it and I give it to her. We have the big gift exchange, and it's just like two lovebirds, newly dated lovebirds, and I give her the gift. She opens a Chanel number 5. She gives me the gift. I open it, and it is a mood ring. And let me say that again. Let me make sure you heard what I just said. It is a mood ring. The mood rings in the 70s changed colors according to mood. And I was like, oh, man, a mood ring. Thank you. And
thank you very much.
It was, yeah.
Well, you know what? We had just met.
Right.
We only met 2 months before Christmas. And I didn't know where you were going to be. So,
and so it was like, but again, I think, as funny as that story is, again, that lends itself to the challenge. Because to get a mood ring and to give $50 in Chanel that probably cost $50, there was an imbalance in it, but it was something about that was challenging, and I can't explain why. But I think the overall picture that I'm painting here is that I had accidentally overexpressed my feelings, and I think there were things that were going on her side that she had been more defensive, smarter in her defensive technique and tactics, because she was in an older social environment and had seen more things on that front than I had, and it caused a fascinating kind of a right out of the gate yin and yang, and this balance thing and this weird thing. Whereas we had that little difference, but at the same time, we both loved getting on the bus and riding over to Georgetown, because at the time, of course, I didn't have a car. I lived in a city, and my daddy didn't have car for all you kids' money. So we got on the bus and rode over to Georgetown. When Wonder Woman 84 came out, she and I just partied all day, because they recreated Georgetown, the Georgetown that we knew, with Commander Salamander,
right,
with Up Against the Wall Warehouse, and Up Against the Wall, and all the stores that I worked in and the people that I knew. And we were elated at that movie. We didn't care about what the movie did. It just that it created the space that we recognized. So we started doing those things together. She loved I was an athlete, and as an athlete, you are very much, you're frequently in physical confrontations and confrontations in general, so your fear is very small. My fear as a high school student was small. I had played football all of my childhood, and so I was used to confrontation. So I didn't worry about confrontations. I wasn't lyric. So we'd go any place, and we'd have a ball every place we went. And so we started laughing. We met at 17, and we started laughing at 17.
And we're still laughing.
Yeah, I mean, we just laughed about it.
Yeah.
But so I wrote one thing down. I remember. So that's how we met. And I think about the dating services now. I think about the online dating services, the hot for hire dating services. And I even wrote down the word arranged marriages.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you right now, as weird as it sounds, and this is something that everybody can accept, I don't think anything is wrong. Mm-hmm. Because I think in a lot of cases, the people around you know you more and better than you do. And they actually, in some cases, if you find the right person, I'm not talking about everybody in your life, because, we all got some loose screws in our lives, and they don't make the best decisions for themselves, and they certainly wouldn't for you. But there are some places where you know people, and you know people that they would work with, or you highly suspected, based on intricacies that you know about each one of those person's lives. And I say arranged marriage because when we moved out of one of our homes, the couple that bought our home was from an arranged marriage.
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember watching them, and I think I was shocked because they looked just like us. Mm-hmm. I watched the dynamics. I watched their space. I watched their speak. I watched everything about them, and I was like, why can't I tell that that's arranged marriage? I don't know how I knew. Mm-hmm. Somebody in the whole... I
think it was part of the culture. I think that's probably what it was. We knew the culture, and that was typical for that culture. So,
but I was like kind of blown away at what I saw, and it made me back up and stop my yik-yak and respect that more, and understand that no, this is something that works. And so I think all of that. That's how we met, and I think
so. Well, just to say, while ours wasn't arranged per se, we were introduced by someone who knew us both.
Oh my gosh.
And she knew me. My cousin knew me better than she knew you because I had been her cousin all her life.
So we were a soft American version of an arranged marriage.
In a way, we were introduced that way. And
Cameron has to ponder that some more. I
hadn't thought about that until you mentioned the arranged marriage concept. But I will tell you, sometimes I thought arranged marriages aren't so bad. And I mean. When I think about, sometimes your own kids, you think about, can I introduce them to someone I know? And
so here's what's crazy. At 17, and a relationship was the furthest thing from my mind.
Yeah.
Marriage was a billion miles from my mind, but somehow Hilda knew that y'all need to meet because there's something there. Now, what she knew and how she knew, I only thank God that I was smart enough to slow down enough to hear and just obedient to life and just the whole, whatever, if you want to call it spirituality, the karma of it all, that led me to that place. Because, I sit here some 45 years later and I'm in a good spot.
And there's something else about...
I'm in a fantastic spot.
There's something else about this, too, that I would say, and that is, in my case, and we'll get more into this a little bit later because we're going to have more than one session talking about the whole marriage concept. Yeah. But, there were people that I dated that probably weren't the best people to be dating, and my parents were not happy about that. When I met you, I was like, oh, he's cute, because that's the first thing you're going to do when you see somebody. You're going to know, like, are they attractive or whatever. Yeah, he was pretty cute, and I think we hit it off. So he still is cute. He is the most handsome man, and the only person comes close to him is my grandson. How about that?
Actually, I don't even rate with your grandson. I'm a distant second from him.
You can't. I said, who comes close to you, darling? Yeah. So anyway, but I would say that that we had fun. We hit it off, and we had fun from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And that was something I did not have with anybody else that I had seen or I knew at that time. Those people were not acceptable to my parents. You were acceptable. They were thanking God. Oh my gosh, she found somebody her age. Yeah. Who is not, and you were always so good in talking to them because you're a great talker now, as we can see.
Thank you.
But you talk to anybody and you can put them at ease and make them feel comfortable. Now, they knew you were 17, so it wasn't like they were talking to somebody who was 30. But that was the thing. They knew you were 17 and not 30.
Yeah.
But I think that they were so happy to see me with someone who was more appropriate for me, more on my level.
See, and
who was that yin and yang, and somebody they could trust, and somebody like, yeah, he's good. Yeah, he can come for dinner on Sunday.
Yeah, and this kind of lends itself to that next topic you had. What is the right person?
Yeah, right.
Because, man, I didn't even think about it.
Before you jump into that, I have two things I want to say. Sure. First of all, I want to say that bottle of Chanel No. 5. Yeah. I never used it all up. It is upstairs right now on my dresser.
Wow.
I have it upstairs. I did spend the $50.
Wow, but that's deep.
That's
deep. Yeah, I didn't realize you still had that bottle.
I still had that bottle. Wow. I kept it.
I do not have the mood ring. Sorry.
No, he does not have the mood ring. The mood ring was $15, I think, at the time, by the way. But
spent that much.
Well, like I said, I didn't know where it was going to go.
Budget than I thought.
I was hedging my bets. I wasn't sure. So, there you go. You got a mood ring. Yeah, stick around long enough, you get something really good. Which brings me to the second thing, and that is, ever since the mood ring, I have made up for that. ever since then, I have given you the most fantastic gifts for birthdays, Father's Day, Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean,
your giving is nuts.
I give great gifts, but I just wanted to be sure that I was making the right investment.
Oh, you made sure. I'm going to
there
invest $15.
So I made it for that. So anyway, all right.
You did.
All right, good. Because we talked about, we were getting to choosing the right person.
Yeah,
so
the right person.
It's kind of how you start off, and then kind of like choosing this person that you decide you're going to
and
invest your time and money with.
I think we uncovered a big part of the right person, because the right person has to do with the person that makes you laugh.
Yeah.
A person that makes you laugh.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think there's so much to be said for that, because why did that make you laugh? Why was I so comfortable that I could do things that expose myself that would make you laugh, that were risky? It's almost like risky behavior. The more that you reveal of yourself to somebody, it's a riskier behavior, because that's something that can be used against you. That can be used to criticize you, to demean you, to all of those things. And clearly there was something there that made me feel very comfortable with that. And I felt like I'm going to be okay with that. And that's an interesting thing in finding that right person. I think you also mentioned being able to talk to your parents. I think one of those qualifications, or one of those qualities, is right person is a person that's like you. I had, fortunately, a mother and a father that I lived with, that I communicated with all the time. That's not to say that that's a bad thing, but it is a thought that you probably need to be mindful of. A single child from a single family home being in relationship with a girl or a guy with 10 siblings and both parents, there's some differences there. Mm-hmm. They're not differences that cannot be overcome.
You're not bad differences, but just differences. Yeah. Right.
And you have to understand that when it's time to eat, that kid raised by his mom as the only child has a whole different strategy and thought process about eating than the child that had 10 siblings and a mother and a father. Those are completely different experiences. Mm-hmm. When it's time to go buy a pair of shoes, those two camps think different. When you have a child and you are about to raise and discipline that child, those two people think different. Mm-hmm. And I think saying somebody that is not the right person is not the point. It is an understanding that the more differences that exist, the broader your thinking has to be.
Right.
And you have to be prepared. We've talked to people, for example, from interracial marriages. Mm-hmm. I know some of the greatest couples that I know in interracial marriages, and the thing I always tell people, I think it's a great thing. Don't you sleep on the reality of what it is. Mm-hmm. Because there's some places in the country that a mixed marriage is nobody even pays it any attention. And there's some places in this country that a mixed marriage is going to get all the attention, and you might sometimes be in verbal or even physical altercations that make no sense. But that's just the reality of it. So all I'm trying to do is say the right person. I don't know if there's an answer to the right person. There's an answer to you understanding the person that you have.
Right.
And understanding, so what does that mean, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. You got to deal with, some of us have wives or boyfriends that talk. So that means that, okay, now, are you a listener? If that yip yap is going to drive you nuts, or if in crowds it bothers you, often, so you just got to know. And I'm just saying, you just want to be mindful of it, and you have to be prepared and understand who that person is, the differences, the obstacles. We know physical attraction is a very limited thing because we all change. I mean, the stuff I've been through now, I don't look at all, to me, the way I looked when I was 17. People don't look at me and say, well, I don't even recognize him at all. That's not the case at all. But mm-hmm. I'm just saying, my whole point is that beauty changes over time. We change over time. And so the physical stuff alone can't be it. So that right person has got to be greater substance to it than just the looks thing.
I think we quickly found the things that we had in common that we just like doing.
Yeah.
So that mattered.
Yeah.
So when we went on dates, when we went to eat, whatever it may have been, we just had things that we had in common that were, I don't even remember what they all were at this point. But
it's funny.
You kind of start with some of that and values.
I don't think if we knew the things we had in common, or if we just found ourselves in similar thought and in similar action based on different situations. So we both had incredible drive, mm-hmm. right? We never talked about that.
No, not 17.
We didn't really talk
not then.
about it.
17-year-olds these days may talk about that, but we
both,
didn't.
but we both were very, even at 17, we were both very ambitious people that had kind of way out their thoughts in our minds about what we wanted to do and what we wanted to accomplish. And I think, I mean, so right person is I feel kind of bad now because I'm talking about finding the right person. I found the right person, and I can't tell you how I found what I found and how we synced where we did sync. It was just kind of a weird magic that occurred. Right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. Well, one thing we liked. Okay, so you like music. Okay, so it's easy. I like music. He likes music. Doesn't mean you like the same kind of music all the time.
Right.
But you had a really interesting job where you were.
So you know what? So this is interesting. Now, so this is interesting. So there were things that happened as we met each other that continued to draw our interest in each other, right? So I met you. You're in college, and immediately you're doing the college thing, and I think you were working while you were in college.
Yeah, I worked the entire time I was in college. Yes.
So she's working while she's in college. I am doing the school thing. And I come out of high school. I go not to college, but I go to a trade school. I go to school to be a diesel mechanic. In the interim, I'm working jobs. And one of the jobs that I had connected before I met Rob, and I guess I was maybe 15. I was really young. Dimensions Unlimited was a black concert promotion firm in D.C. that basically ran music concerts and
all the acts that would come
all
to town.
live venues. They were running it. They were the guys that were doing it. And when I met Robin, when I met you, I was already connected with them, wasn't I?
Yes, because of your cousin. Your cousin.
So my cousin Vincent and Loretta had brought me into their circle, and I was basically hanging out with Vincent. And I was with Vincent and Bill one day. They were talking, and I was just doing me. And Bill said, "You are funny. We got to get you in front of people." And I had no idea what that meant. I spent time with them. If any of y'all are from DC, y'all know the Marshall Hall boat. I can't remember what that cruise line was, but they had a boat that ran between Marshall Hall and DC, and they brought acts on there from Choice 4 to oh my gosh, I think the Blue Magic, all the incredible doo-wop groups during that era, and I was all about it. And hanging out with him, I got exposed to that, and I eventually started to work for them. When I met Robin, I was working for them, and I had what developed from "you're funny, we got to get you in front of people" was during the 70s. I was like, before you had hype people,
right?
I was a hype guy. I was an MC, and I would introduce artists and acts, and it was an amazing life. So Robin meets me. She thinks I'm a kind of okay looking guy. She goes out to me with Georgetown. We're hanging out. I think she's like, fine. And so we hanging out. We're doing all of that. And so we interject now this music thing. So she looks up, and she's up at Carter Barron Amphitheater, and she's talking to Temptations. And we got her mom, and she's meeting, her mom is meeting Dennis Edwards, and they're hanging out taking pictures in the back. Yeah. And she's kind of like, I might stay with this dude for a minute. This is kind of cool. This is kind of cool.
That was a pretty fun date.
And so that was a part of my life, and so I just absorbed her into it. And the next thing she knows, she's walking through Capitol Center back in the day when Capitol Center existed, and somebody says, "Hey, Rudy, Robin," and she looks up and it's Lionel Richie.
Yeah.
Right, and Lionel is calling us, and we're talking, or we're in the airport in Toronto, and somebody says, "Hey, Rudy," and we look up and it's Mylan, the old keyboard player from Commodores.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. That was the kind of life that she immediately found herself in, right? And so now you got that spark of energy, and I'm trying to look at ways to transition into the music industry. I said I was in diesel school, which is so weird because I'm working to be a diesel mechanic. I'm talking to her. I eventually go into IT, but the rock and roll thing, we spent maybe 2 or 3 years. Smokey Robinson, the Temptations, Aretha Franklin,
Michael Jackson.
We go to, this is too cool a story not to tell. I know this is about relationships. This is about relationships.
This is a sidebar a little bit.
But this is a sidebar conversation because you get to know how our relationships were being pushed and energized even at that young age. So I get a call and somebody says, hey, listen, can I please speak to Rudy? And my mom says, hey, come here, it's a phone call for you. It's at my mom's house.
Okay.
And she says, this sounds like Bill Withers. And I'm like, well, first of all, how does she know how Bill Withers sounds?
On
I don't
the
even
phone.
know what that is. But no, I think he said this is Bill Withers. He identified himself. That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so she puts me on the phone, and Bill says, hey, is this Rudy? And I said, yeah. He said, listen, man, we down here with this Black Caucus thing. And they asked me to serve as the master of ceremonies. The main guys down here are the Jacksons. I ain't no Jacksons, dude. They tell me that you the guy that relates to younger people, and you the guy that needs to. Can you come out here and introduce these people? I'll be with
Bill
you.
Withers get you?
Because he told Bill he didn't want to do it.
Okay.
He told Bill, talking to Bill Washington. So
Bill Washington.
Right.
Okay.
So he tells Bill that's not his real thing. Bill connects him with me. I'm talking to Bill Withers on the phone. Bill Withers could ask me to go walk on the moon. I'm on the moon because Lean On Me will still lean on me, right? That's just a joint. I love him. Grandma's Hands and all. He keep getting me going. I sing a whole Bill Withers track. But so we get in the car. We go down to, I think it was at Capitol Center, and we go to Cap Center. And this was right after the Jackson 5 had broke up. Jermaine had left, doing his own Jermaine Jackson thing with Motown. The guys stayed. They went to Capitol Records, and they became the Jacksons. Mm-hmm. We roll in. I say, okay, where are the guys that I need to talk about how they want to come out? Because that's what you always do. You had a little strategy session. Robin's in tow, and her sister Pam is in tow. We go in. They said, well, Mike is in here. The Jacksons are in here. And we go in, and all the guys are in the room. Well, along that time, Michael was not nearly the star that he became. And as a matter of fact, I call him regular Michael because Michael's nose was as big as mine. We were just normal people, minus all of the other transitions that happened. And we kick it. We just in the dressing room kicking it. He meets Robin, meets Pam, and we just talking. And I say, Mike, listen, my sister couldn't come. Would you mind talking to her on the phone? Now, I know all of y'all, this is going to really date us. There were no cell phones.
Nope.
Okay. So we went to a payphone that was there in the arena. I think it was because it was convenient. You say, why didn't you go to office phone? I think we just found a phone that was convenient.
They had one backstage.
So okay, it was backstage.
Yeah.
So we call my mother's house, and the phone is ringing, and Mike says, give it to me. And he takes the phone. I'm saying Michael Jackson. I'm not. I know. You listen to me like, did he say what I thought he said? Yes. So Michael takes the phone. And my mom answers the phone. That's the one. That's where it came in. He says, hi, is Jewel there? And my mom knew it was Michael Jackson. She knew by the sound of his voice. She said, this sounds like Michael Jackson. Well, now she knew what I had gone to do. So she knew where we had gone. And Mike gets on the phone, and Mike talks to Jewel.
Yeah.
And they just talk. And I think the saddest part from this story is that nobody believed her.
Yeah, she went back to school. Nobody. I guess the next Monday, and she tells him that Michael Jackson had called her on the phone, and none of her kids believed her.
I had aunts, I had relatives.
Family didn't believe you.
Did not believe that story
until your mother confirmed it, right?
That's right. The mama had to confirm.
Yeah,
mama had to start backing her up because everybody was just like, "Girl, get out of here." So it was a funny story. But anyway, so that was our lives as teenagers, right? It was nothing for us to be at. I think one day we went to someplace like Hershey Park or something crazy. And like a day or so later, we were in the dressing room talking to Smokey Robinson.
Yeah. And
that was kind of like, that's what our lives were like as teenagers. And I call it the rock and roll era because we got so many stories, so many people, and mine separated from her, Richard Pryor, Patti LaBelle, Dave Mason, Bruce Springsteen. There's so many people that we came in contact with, that I worked with, that I talked to, that I spent time with. So if you're talking about something that injects a level of energy into a relationship, that's what our relationship was.
Yeah.
Right? And I guess shortly after that, we married. I think I had moved out of that business, transitioned out, and was actually working as an IT guy. And by that time, I had talked you into quitting school. So
okay, well, it's one thing I have to say about the whole rock and roll period.
Yeah,
because what you learn about, one thing that came out of that helped him at least know that I was the one, is that he had this car. Eventually, he did get a car,
Oh, yeah.
And he had a car. It was a Mustang, right?
69 Mustang.
And mind you, this was several years after 1969, so it was an older car at the time. And the car didn't always start the way it was supposed to. It didn't always start the way it was supposed to.
Get out of here.
It did not. And and we went down. So we drove down to Constitution Hall one night because
the test night.
He was going to be. He was emceeing a concert, and
I think that was Cool in the Gang night.
Okay, I can't remember who was on. There were so many we saw. I mean, we were so lucky and blessed to see all the people we saw. I can't even remember them all.
I prayed with them before the show that night.
I wish I had written this down. I had known to write this down and keep a diary of it at the time because right now we're relying on our memories, but the car didn't start after the concert. So he goes on, he's on the stage and he's introducing people and all that kind of cool stuff. We get out and the car doesn't start.
Car doesn't start.
And
Big time MC, car ain't working.
So here he is trying to get this car to start, and I can't remember all you did to try to get the car to start that night.
Well, in a suit, I got under the car. And I had to bump the start motor to make it work. Guys who had those cars know exactly what I'm talking about. And just got under there and got it work, dust off the dust, and it
was so bad.
But the test was the car wouldn't work, and she called her dad and told her she was being delayed because the car wasn't working.
Yeah.
And your dad told you what?
He told me to get a cab, get a taxi to come home.
Roll on out on that dude. Won't have time for this. And what'd you do?
I didn't get the taxi.
Didn't get the taxi.
I stayed with you.
I said, my girl. And it was like, I wasn't able to, I wasn't smart enough or mature enough to process that at the time. But it was a sign of things to come, because there were lots of places as life rolls out where you had options and you had choices. And you could always bail. You could always go to something else, do something else. And I saw that car night repeated over and over. All kinds of situations. And it's kind of like, I wasn't smart enough to know that was it. But it's kind of like, no, this is the way this is. And I never thought about it as a precedent setting thing for me or what I would do in situations. But hindsight being 2020, it was a revelation of sorts into who I was dealing with and what you were about. So that was fascinating.
And we didn't even know it then. We didn't know it.
Nah.
I think it's now
just doing what we do. You're just doing what we do.
Yeah. So that kind of happens. So there was that.
And so we talk about the right person, and then we talked about what's important, right? And that certainly lines up with what's important, because it's kind of like you say these things about till death do you part, and dying is a thing, but there's a whole bunch of things on the way. Money, kids, faith, high energy people, the ambitious, not ambitious, being content. Those are so many pieces and parts, in determining what's important. So it's like funny. We never talked about what was important, but it's kind of like life and faith. It doesn't matter what I tell you I believe in. What I do tells you what I believe in.
Right.
And so saying what's important, to list it is one thing, but we actually accidentally lived it.
Yeah. I think we accidentally lived a lot.
So we lived out
it's like looking back
what
on
was
it.
important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I knew that our relationship was important to you because you didn't get in the cab and go home. Mm-hmm. Right? I knew that me making something out of myself was important because you just had, you were flirting with law degrees, all sorts of things. So I knew you were ambitious, and my ambition, I think, picked up to keep pace. Right?
Okay.
And so it was kind of the weird thing. So the right person, I don't have a definition of a right person, but one of the things that made you a right person was, without thinking about it, you pushed me.
Yeah.
You didn't intend to push me.
No, it wasn't
but
intentional.
Just the person that you were pushed me.
Yeah.
Not because I was trying to give you something, but because I wanted to be what you wanted to be. I wanted to succeed. I wanted to do something. I wanted to accomplish something. And that was not a pressure push, because you've never pressed me as much as I've pressed me, but it was a push. And it was like, man, that's kind of like, I don't think I was planning to do that.
But at the same time, you freed me up.
Yeah.
Because it was so hard for me. And right now, I'm so thankful that schools have like AP classes and all those things like that, so that, you know, kids who are more advanced can take more advanced studies without having to leave an age group that they don't belong in at that time. Because there was nothing more difficult for me at the time than to be 2 to 3 years younger than the people I was going to school with by the time I got to college, and not be able to do the things that they could do. So if they're doing a party on the weekend, I'm living at home, riding the bus to school. They're living on campus, doing whatever they wanted. And my parents were like, no, you just come on home at, you know,
so
5
every
o'clock.
Monday, all you hear about is everything you missed.
And
there were things that you didn't need to be at anyway because you were actually too young. So the conflict, it's a social disaster. Yeah,
socially it was really, really difficult. And so you made life fun on an acceptable level.
Yeah.
So it was that, and you allowed me just to be free and have fun. Now we started talking about the prom.
I know it.
I'm gonna let you get back to the prom for a minute, because that was like, you want me, the college girl, to go to a prom with you. Seriously.
Because I'm a high school.
I don't do proms.
High school athlete.
I didn't do my own prom.
I'm a high school athlete, and we are like the dudes on campus, right? We'd won a championship while I was there. We were guys, and we were very popular people on campus. I was blessed with being an incredibly popular person. I didn't value it then the way I value it now, but I was. So when it's time to go to the prom, of course we're going to the prom, and of course you're going. And she said, absolutely not. I'm not going to no prom. Boy, have you lost your mind?
I didn't go to my own prom. Why would I go to yours?
So I'm immediately going to work, because no, everybody goes to prom. She says, no, everybody doesn't. And we really had some conversations, the details of which I have no idea. I don't remember. The short version of the story is she ended up going, and she had an absolute ball. And I think what happened was she grew me up and I grew her down, right? And we met where we were supposed to be, because she was functioning in a world of adults, but she was not yet an adult. She shouldn't be in that world. I was functioning as a child and needed to mature because I was a senior in high school. I needed to become a young adult. And I think in this weird, twisted way, we met, and we met in the middle.
Right.
I became a young adult, a young man, and you became a young woman as opposed to a woman. You weren't a woman yet. That was not what you were supposed to be doing. You were carrying weight that was not appropriate for your age and just where you were mentally. And so it was a weird thing. So she's in college and she's miserable. And what we moved to from that was she was so miserable. I said, well, why are you doing it? He said, because you're going to college.
That's what you do. You're exposed to. You're expected to. You go to college after high school.
I said, what all ambitious, hardworking people do. Well, then quit. And she says, you can't quit. I said, oh, people quit college every day. I'm not in college, but I can tell you, I can promise you that people quit college every day. I know people that quit college. Yeah. And the short version of the story is I talk her into quitting college. That is the first conflict I had with her parents, because they understood the root cause of that decision was me. And I promised her, and I said, I think I had a conversation with them, she can always go back. College never doesn't accept you, but she's miserable.
Yeah.
She is miserable. She doesn't have a good day. Every day is a bad day because it includes going to college. And she quit, and they were not happy.
And they weren't happy with you, but they didn't say that outright. Yeah. But I'm sure they were not. Yeah. We never talked about that with them like that. But I'm sure they were like. So we got married. We thought he was okay, and then he's not.
I don't remember what the difference. Yeah, no. I don't remember what the time space was between the time that you quit college and the time we got married. But I think somewhere in there, we had announced it or talked about getting married.
It was a couple of years. It was like, yeah. So I went for 2 years, and then I stopped in about 2 years after that.
And so what that did was that made us, I think the marriage talk made things easier.
I don't even, between who?
I think because you talked about getting married.
So when my parents getting married to you?
Yeah.
Well, they thought we were too young to get married. We got married when we were 21. Oh my. So they were, I don't know if they even knew what to do with that, because, as a parent, so when your child comes to you and talks about getting married, as a parent, you think about all the things that you know that they have to deal with.
Yeah.
And you want them to be better prepared. I mean, I don't know who's ever really 1,000% prepared for marriage when they get married.
So
but, yeah.
There's so much that's on my
yeah.
mind. I don't want to talk about marriage and the wedding and the marriage announcement. I want to make sure that we talk about this first,
right?
And we'll do that in our second segment because I realized when you just said that, I got lit immediately because it's so much that went on with that whole. That was one of our first us against the world moments.
Yeah.
And so that's worthy of a very deep dive. So I want to make sure we talk about this. We had some other things listed, the character and friendship and all that stuff. And I want to make sure we go through that. So hang on, let me make sure.
That's a lot to go through, honestly, because so much of that even develops afterwards. So you want to stop here, take a break?
Yeah, let's do that.
We're going to take a break with this episode.
Wow.
Because we're just beginning to set the table.
Oh my gosh!
Right?
Yeah, y'all just left the prom. We just left the prom. Wait a minute.
We left the prom.
Okay,
and we quit school.
But we're gonna do this for this segment. I'm gonna make sure that we post pictures from the prom because we have them.
Oh, that'd be so much fun! Oh my gosh!
We wore powder blue. She had on a powder blue.
No. My dress is not powder blue. My dress is white. And you know what? It reminded me of Marilyn Monroe.
So wait a minute. What color did I have on?
You had on powder blue, I think. You were in that powder blue period back in the 70s.
I thought.
Did you? No, my dress was not. I think I had on.
But I thought we matched.
Maybe you had on white.
Y'all will get to see. Y'all,
okay,
I don't know if y'all will see the progressive.
And we'll show you.
The progressive has some commercials out called the challenge. So you get the challenge where somebody says, and it's funny. Now I feel like we're having a challenge moment. Like I'm pretty sure we had on baby blue and we matched.
My dress was
for some
white.
reason. I think you got it confused with another.
The bet is we buy a lottery ticket tonight, and I
oh
win.
Wow! All right, well, I guess this is the end of the segment.
Okay, we're gonna wrap up this segment. I hope you liked it. Please please subscribe because you don't want to miss the next story of our relationship, but also how all this comes together in terms of marriage and relationships and what to look for and what to avoid. But anyway, so we really enjoyed sharing this with you.
Fabulous.
And he's a great storyteller, so I'm really happy that you did this. But like I said, like and subscribe.
Just quit.
And we're going to... Don't quit us, though. We're going to take a pause. We're going to stop here. We're going to call David in to help us out, get us out of this, and we will see you next time.
And remember, you can always quit. Officially Finna thanks you for joining us.
Please subscribe and hit that like button.